Hey guys, how are you? So this week, I'm at my sister's house. She has 3 dogs and a couple of kids, and I got my kid here. So if you hear some noise in the background, I apologize in advance for that. But we are drawing a cardinal this week, a cardinal sitting in a holly tree, and there might be a little bit of snow in the background. It's kind of up to you what you put in it. But anyway, I think this will be a fun, not too difficult assignment. You're gonna need your pencil, eraser, and let me see, your chalk pastels, and maybe like a piece of like a napkin or something to use as a blending tool. Also, if you have a Q-tip, that makes a really good blending tool as well. Okay, so go get your supplies and we'll get started, okay? Thanks. Okay guys, so to get started on our bird, we're first gonna draw in our little holly tree that he's in, okay? So I'm gonna start by drawing a line up like this. I'm gonna give it some thickness. Oh, I'm sorry. Remember to draw lighter than I am, okay? I need to draw a little bit darker so you guys can actually see what I'm doing. But generally I don't like to draw too dark. Okay, so that's our main branch that's going up. This is our little branch that our bird's gonna sit on. So this is just gonna come over like this. And we'll have a couple more branches coming out to the side. One there, maybe one down here. Maybe one coming up like that. Okay, so that's the basic format for our tree. That's really all that we need to have. I am gonna have some holly leaves in there, but we can do that later. Right now I wanna start with our bird. Okay, a little bit more like this. It's like a rounded rectangle. And this side here is gonna come in a little bit, like that. Okay, and then we're gonna make a triangle on top of that, basically. For his tail, we're gonna come down like this. This right side of his tail should be about in the center of his body. It should come out like that. Actually, that might be curved too much, maybe like that. And then a little curve at the end, kind of like that. Okay, that is the basic shape for our bird. We'll give him some little feet. Like that. Okay, this is where our eraser comes in. First of all, let's erase this. Okay, and make it one big shape. And then I'm gonna assess this overall thing. Okay, first of all, we don't want a point on his head really, so we're gonna round that out. And let's just give this a more round shape, you know, just so it's not such a harsh edge. Kind of like that. And bring his head around like that. I'm gonna smooth that out a little bit. You know, they can come in all different shapes and sizes, but you just want the general proportions to be right, and you want it to kind of smooth in, you know, to blend in, not to be like sharp edges. Actually, I might change that a little bit to give him a little bit more of a defined head area. And then he is gonna have some little feathers that are gonna stick up over here. We can just very lightly put in like a little bit of a wing over here. So this is basically like his chest, and we're kind of getting like a 3/4 view of him. So like we would have a little, maybe a little bit of a shadow down here. So I made his head a little tiny bit smaller, not quite as tall. And when you're doing his face, start with the eye. Put the eye right smack in the middle of his head. And it's kind of like a oval. From there, we're going to do this line that goes down to about where his head meets his body, and then a line that goes across, but it's going to curve up. It's going to go down and then up at the very end. Okay, and then the beak is sort of this angled, it's almost like a sideways L. And then this curves down to a point, and this curves up to a point, and a straight line in between. And then over here, the head goes to the beak, and under the beak, and then to the right. Okay, so that is basically it for our bird. He is going to have a couple of these little feathers come up here. His eye is going to be colored in black. And actually, this will be kind of black or dark blue as well, this part right here. So I'll shade it just to give you an idea. We are going to have a few holly leaves. So let me just show you a holly leaf. It's going to start out with a point, and there are all kinds of different holly leaves, but it's basically like that. And then you do like a couple of curved lines and then go back to a point. Kind of like that. Okay, so our bird is sitting in a holly tree or holly bush. How this is going to work is some of these leaves are going to be visible, okay? But most of the leaves, the way the holly works is that in the very center, which is where he is, there really aren't a whole lot of leaves. It's more of the branches, and the leaves are on the edge. So we're going to put a couple, but there's going to be like leaves behind him that are kind of blurred. So we're not going to draw those very distinctly. Here are just some leaves and some berries just around. Maybe more in the corners to help kind of frame the image. You know, maybe some of them run right off the page. So what we're going to have in our background, I'm going to draw this just real lightly, but there's going to be other branches that fade away in the background. Our background is going to be like a blurred background. So this isn't going to be precise, but we do want to have an indication of other things in the background. Okay, so I'm just kind of sketching out where I want other branches to be. Something like that. Oh, I do want to put some more berries in. I really love the red holly berries. And maybe there can be some in the background over here too. This is the basic color assortment that I have here. I'm basically starting with this. And we're going to start with our background first because we're going to blend that in and make it blurry. Okay, so you can take just bits of color. And remember that it is kind of snowy, so we don't want this to be really dark. Throw some of this in there. You know, when it's snowing, it usually looks kind of cool. There are lots of cool tones when it snows. But I also want to have some of those leaves. Remember how I said that the leaves are going to be in the background blurred? I'm not going to worry about the shape. I just want patches of color. Okay, so I'll start with that. And then I want to blend this in. And maybe you don't blend the whole thing in. You know, maybe like do one color at a time and then just lightly blend it with the others. And while we're doing this, it's okay if it gets into our leaves and even into our bird, because it's okay, we'll go over it. Okay, now I'm gonna find a new place to blend in this yellowy color. And I'm going to do a little bit more, I think, of that blue. Okay, now I'm going to put in some branches in the background. So some of these lighter, like, branches that I started to draw in, these are going to be blended in. They're just sort of blurred in the background. So when I do these, I want to go in the same direction that I drew them. But I'm going to fade them out a little bit so that they look like they're in the background. Okay. And that's basically it for our background. And now we're going to work on our foreground. So I'm going to color in my sticks, my tree, and my branches. I'm going to start with one solid color, but then I'm going to add other colors to it because I don't like using just one color, one singular color. And now with this too, I don't want to like rub it out all the way, but I just want to kind of get the color in and make sure there's not any white spaces. So I'm just going to real lightly kind of rub this in. And this is mostly, since this is my first color that I'm putting down, I want to make sure that I don't leave any white. And there's going to be all this extra stuff, just don't even touch it, okay? We'll blow that off when we're all done. And now I'm going to add just little bits of other color, like maybe little short little lines, little dashes of variations of color. I can even put a little bit of this on the background branches if I want. It's just to give it some dimension. And on the background branches, I will go ahead and blend that in. But on our foreground, I'm going to basically just leave it. I also want to use kind of a dark, I don't know, like this dark purpley color. It's kind of a shadow. I'm trying not to use black. I am going to probably use it in a few places, or like a dark, dark navy in a few places, just to really give it that, the shadow that it needs. But I'm going to try to do my lighter shadows in a bluish purple color. Okay. So that's about it for that. Okay, so for our bird, we're going to start out with a plain red. We're just gonna color him in. Plain and simple. We're gonna not do this face part or the eye, but everything else is gonna get colored in red. You can use the corner, or like the edge, to make a good line on the edges here. And now for his little feathers up at the top, we're just gonna make some little lines like that. Okay, so there's our bird. You know what, maybe I just want to use my finger just to get in all the white spaces. Kind of press the powder into the paper. Okay, and then I'm going to put in some orange for some highlights. Very, very subtle. And maybe I'll try yellow. I was using these just recently over top of a different color, and it made them a little bit difficult to use. Okay. And then along the tail, and sort of around the wing, just to give an indication that there's something there. His head. Okay, and then for his beak, I'm going to use this same kind of light orange color. And I'm going to use this dark blue color. Around his face and for his eye. Now I can also use some of this if I want, except it's not working. I'm not sure why my pastels are doing this to me. It works over here. It's almost like the red is too slippery somehow, and it's not working. Anyway, I'm just trying to go around the edges of him, just put a little bit of a shadow. Maybe over here, like by his face too, a little bit like that. Maybe some lines down here to show like his body going upward. Maybe under his tail. Okay, that's a pretty decent bird. If you want, you can also put in some of this hair color, just for fun, in the shadow areas. We could even use that right there for his beak. There, something like that. But maybe I can go like that and put the red over top. If you're having the same problem that I am, where this just isn't going on top, I don't know why it's not, but you can see it's not. Maybe if you go around the edge, and then I can put the red back over top of that, that would make a nice way to get around that. To get that shadow in there. There, so there's my bird. And now I just have to do my holly leaves. So while I have this red out, I'm gonna do my little berries. I'm gonna use the corner to get a good point. Oh, and something else that you guys can do, in fact you should do, is get a Q-tip. I had one here, but it disappeared. Let me pretend that this is my Q-tip. I'll get some color, some powder off of him. You can just make like little dusty dots in the background that will kind of look like faded back berries, like blurred in the background. Okay, so definitely do that too. And if you have a Q-tip, that does work a lot better than what I'm doing, but that'll work in a pinch. And then my leaves, I'm going to first color them in green. This is a very bright green. And so I want to kind of tone this down a little bit, so I'm going to use some other colors over top of it. I'll color that in first. Just noticed that I forgot some berries up here, so I'll go add those in a minute. Okay, and then other colors that you can add some of this blue that we used earlier, this light blue. And you know, when you're doing this, when you're adding the highlights or the shadows, you're just doing a little bit. You're not covering the whole area like we did with the other color. Okay, this is just, you can, I don't know, go along the edge or just pick a couple spots on the inside. It really kind of depends on your light source. And inside of a bush, our light source is going to be very scattered. And then I used some of this purple. So where you didn't do the blue, maybe put some little bits of purple in, just to give it some shape. Okay, and I'm just literally doing little blotches. There is always, the holly leaves have like a crease in the middle, so you could do that crease in the middle with this. And then just little blotches. Now I'm going to put these berries that I missed up in here. And we are just about done. I mean, you could be done right here. I'm actually really happy with that, to be honest. I had wanted to put snow on here, but that's kind of complicated. I can show you how to do it in case you want to. The thing is you can't really draw white snow on white paper. So what you need to do is color in the background around it. So like, let's say I'm gonna have snow right there on this branch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create dark around it. Kind of like that. And then maybe inside of it, I could just, oh, I didn't mean to do the green. Just like little little indications of something like that. Okay, so I mean, you could do that. And a couple, like, of where these branches meet. Gotta get rid of this dust first. Maybe right here. But then remember to go in and darken up the area behind it to make it stand out. And blend that in. The background, that is, not the snow. Like that. So anyway, guys, this is basically it. I hope you guys enjoyed this assignment. I hope it was fun for you, and I hope you have a good week. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.